And most of you have been involved in some sort of opportunity for fellowship here at BUC, such as a small group, or a book group, or a discussion group, or a support group, or holiday dinners, or sharing dinners, or the opera goers, or the film buffs, or the new young adults group. Or maybe you just found some friends here who you enjoy spending time with. Those of us who are involved in these small groups know that we develop friendships and a deeper sense of belonging than we would have if we had stayed on the periphery of the church. We have friends here. Fellowship isn't limited to just these small groups. We can experience it in the sanctuary during the service, which is why we share our joys and sorrows there. We might experience it in coffee hour discussing the sermon, or working alongside someone at Rummage, or perhaps spreading wood chips on an all-church work day, or doing laundry for SOS, or singing in the choir. So many, the list goes on and on. I'm dressed today in my biking shirt because that's one of my favorite groups here at BUC, the BUC Bikers. And we ride on a trail in Rochester every Thursday. And we used to ride at 6 p.m. after work, but now we're all retired, so we ride at 4 p.m. And we've added mini rides to that, and we go to places as far flung as Stony Creek Metro Park and Kensington Metro Park, Ann Arbor, Dearborn, Grosse Pointe, downtown Detroit. And we've even had some long distance trips, such as Stratford or Niagara on the Lake, or we've gone to the Parc Lineaire in Quebec, or northern Michigan, southern Ohio. Some of us even rode on the Danube in Austria. Mm-hmm. And we didn't ride on the Danube. Alongside it. And I've become very close to this group, and it feels like family. And I'm sure that many of you have had similar experiences with groups where you have felt very close and you have become close friends. And later on, we'll give you a chance to share those experiences if you would like to. You may ask what all this has to do with stewardship. Well, we need to support the church, because if the church weren't here, these groups wouldn't be here. And we probably never would have met any of these people that have become close friends. So we need to support the church as a whole. And I think my Brett's going to speak about membership.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brett. I'm the chairperson of the membership committee. And membership, what we do is we engage members and potential members to help create a welcoming environment where people feel a sense of community, connectedness, and belonging. And no matter where someone's at on their membership path, we're always there with them. It's not just on the front end, it's for forever, actually. And what we do is, in addition to engaging, and that's more here, within the church, we also like to reach out to the wider community with things such as, you'll see some pictures of the Woodward Dream Cruise, the BUC Woodward Dream Cruise that we had this past summer. We had some members of the membership committee were staffing a booth, or not a booth, a tent at Ferndale Pride, etc. So we're getting out and helping the community to become a little bit more aware of Unitarian Universalism and of BUC, and that actually helps to bring more people into our doors. Because Carol mentioned, if it weren't for the church being here, we wouldn't have a lot of these opportunities for connection. And when people come to the doors, obviously, then they get an opportunity to learn all the different benefits of being a member at Birmingham Unitarian Church and get to know our community a little better. And we get to know them. Growing a strong, sustainable, and vibrant church requires regularly educating and sharing with people about BUC, about Unitarian Universalism in general, and some of the things we offer are reading materials such as our BUC history book, First 50 Years, and another really good book if you haven't had a chance. These are both just outside our main office. As a matter of fact, free to take one. Welcome Unitarian Universalist primer, because Unitarian Universalists, by our very nature, we're full of questions, and sometimes we want to go home and have some of those questions answered at our own pace. So we offer some reading materials. And then that way people can experience a free and responsible search for truth and meaning in their own way and at their own pace. Now I'm going to briefly tell you what my experience was coming here to BUC, and then afterwards, like Carol mentioned, we're going to give you an opportunity to mention some of your personal experiences, because everyone's experience will be a little different, with fellowship and with membership. And membership would be, when we all have our individual story of our first time coming to church. With mine, I was actually attending another church, and I'm an inquisitive UU, so I went online and I was looking to see what Unitarian Universalist churches were around. I was already aware of UU, and I found BUC, and so I came to the door, and the greeters welcomed me very warmly with a smile, and I felt like it was home the moment I came in, and it was such a positive experience. I actually thought, this is a fluke. I think I might have caught them on an off day. I think because no one was trying to indoctrinate me. They were encouraging me to think for myself. I thought, you know what? I'll come back once more and just see if this is really what I think this is. I came back a second time, and sure enough, it was consistent. And I thought, okay, well, that's 2 out of 3. I'll come back a third time. Just make sure that these people really are this nice and this welcoming. And sure enough, everyone was, and I'm chairperson of the membership committee now, so here I am. But that's just my experience. Like we said, we would love to hear from you about your experiences with membership and, of course, fellowship. What's made you stick? So, if anyone would like to mention how they came here and why they stayed, just raise your hand.
I came by way of Brett and Denny. I remember my first time when I came. It was very, I liked it. For some fact that I walked in the door and I seen the LCD screen and I was like, oh my goodness, they're really up for technology. I like this, And the only reason why I said it is because, when it came to screens and projectors, it was for bigger churches. And you say like, this is the overflow area, you watch the service on this screen because you didn't make it into the sanctuary in time, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, oh wow, this is nice. And it's nice and cozy and home feeling, and man, I really can get to know this place a little better, and that's the whole point, of get to know you, and everything was you, and it was like you, and I didn't know research on it, because I just simply told Brett one day, I'm going to come to church with you one day. And so Brett said, hey, I'll be there at this time, then make sure you be ready, I'm coming on there. But yeah, I'll be ready, don't worry. But it was very, welcoming and warm, and so that was actually back in June, and they're coming ever since, and I like it. So, yeah, really like it. So I met these long-time members, some people thought 30-some years, haven't got that far.
Working in progress.
It was serendipity the first time that Dick and I visited, because the first person that we met when we walked in that social hall door was Larry Friedman. And of course he signed us up to be ushers. Seriously, but that's in conversation. I found out that Larry and I worked at the same company in Ridgewood, New Jersey, in the 70s. A little earlier than that. Englewood, New Jersey, right. So anyway, that was like a click. And then, we did go ahead and ush. I remember then they were asking at the beginning of the service, anybody here visiting? Oh, Dick and I stood up. And then the next week was, anybody here visiting? Dick and I stood up. And so like maybe the third time, somebody turned around and said, yeah, I'm gonna stand up every time. Whatever, we like it here.
And like you mentioned, the programs are here because of you and for you. And it sounds like we've had a lot of different experiences, and everyone has their own different experiences and how they got here, how they choose to connect, and we have many different ways to connect. And that's, again, because of you. And we have, of course, still plenty of room to grow, and growth is one of the things we're thinking of as we're moving on into 2014 and beyond. So Walter will tell us a little bit about growth and where we're gonna.
You're reading my mind, Brett. I don't know how you do that.
I'm good with
But I was sitting here thinking about fellowship and stewardship and how they're related, and that's not necessarily obvious, since I think most of the fellowship activities of the church don't receive any or much in the way of direct support. Some of them actually support the church like Rummage, rather than the other way around. And of course, there's the obvious connection that if we want to have the programs, we have to support the community that they serve. But I'm wondering, as long as we're just sitting here talking, what people think about the notion that as VUC grows, at some point, it may become desirable, if not, maybe at some point necessary, to have some staffing to help with the fellowship activities. That's not a new idea. We used to have June Strebe, some of you may remember, who, although her job wasn't directly to support fellowship, but she did do a lot of that.
I'm not
Any thoughts?
understanding what you're saying about.
Well, I'm trying to connect fellowship with the purpose of today's events, which is to encourage people to support the church and, if possible, do so a little more.
But you said something about increasing staff.
Well, I'm wondering what thoughts there may be in this room about whether that would be a reasonable thing to do, to have staff support for fellowship activities. I'm not.
Well, it isn't that we don't. Is it?
Not much.
Do we need it?
Well, that's part of the question.
Well, we need someone to tell the group what to do, and I don't, you know, I think it sounds bureaucratic to me. I'm not comfortable with it.
Don't we have unpaid volunteers who do most of these things? Like
Exactly.
Marcia for auctions,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure who runs Rummage, but I show up to cook every time. I know Wally runs the cooking part. That's a good question.
Well, I'm not taking an advocacy position. I'm just asking the question.
Sharing dinners.
But I can say
They
that
do it for free.
there are a lot of these things, maybe at this point all of them are certainly largely run by unpaid volunteers. Those folks are getting very, very hard to find.
Oh,
And in
So
general,
if you're
the
thinking about
programming
the
that we
need for unpaid
have, the
volunteers,
programming that we have, which
Step
would
right
be membership and fellowship, if you like what you've seen so far, and you'd like to see us be able to grow and continue what we're doing and grow beyond that, keep growth in mind when you're making your stewardship pledge. Because if you're standing still, you're essentially moving backwards, because the world keeps moving on. And we want to grow beyond where we're at right now. And what we're asking today is just keep that in mind as you're considering your pledge to VUC, and we want to grow together. And at this time, we're going to, unless anyone has any questions, wrap it up. We're going to have